Next up, we're going to talk about the rise of multimodal models. So I mentioned this idea of modalities earlier on in the series. What we mean again by modality is text is a modality, images, video, audio, code. These are all modalities. So multimodal literally just means these language models are developing the ability to do more than language. So here's a really practical example. I took a photo at Cleveland Browns Stadium in September of 2023. My wife and I were early, and the stadium wasn't full. So once I got access to the computer vision component within Dolly, so I'm using ChatGPT Plus. This is the paid edition, and once they turned on this vision capability, so I said, "How many people are in the stands?" I wanted to see if it could count people. It basically said, I can't do that. So I said, best guess, try counting. This is a key thing. Sometimes these systems will tell you they can't do things. You just need to encourage it and give it some additional context, and it will often then do the thing it doesn't think it's able to do. So once I said, try counting by section, it said, all right, I'll give it a go based on the image. And then it actually developed a formula to estimate how many people were there. Now, I did not count all the individual people, but my guess is this is probably pretty close. But then at the end, see, it says like, now remember, this is rough. I can only see so many sections. The actual number could be higher based on, other things in the stadium. A key thing here is it wasn't trained to do this. This is a model that learned from a corpus of data, and it somehow developed the ability to do this thing I asked it to do. Now, I'll give you another example, really weird one. So when I was talking to the golf industry people, I happened to have this photo on my phone. I thought it would be a funny one to test. So this was me hitting out of a pond when I was golfing, obviously. And so I said, analyze this golf shot. Consider the ball position, hands, and overall form. So again, I gave it kind of step by step. I didn't tell it who it was or anything like that, but I gave it like kind of what I was looking for. So I was really curious if it could do this. And this is what it did the first try. This was not me like continuing to prompt the thing. So it said, based on the image, here are some observations regarding the golfer's setup and form. So now all of a sudden we have a model that wasn't trained to analyze golf swings. That was not part of its specifically fine-tuned training, but it generally learned to do it through whatever data it was trained on. It analyzes the ball position. It looks at the hands and says they're actually in pretty good shape. Overall, it looks good. But then it says it's worth noting that this is a kind of an incomplete analysis, that a comprehensive analysis would benefit from multiple angles and video footage to evaluate the entire swing. Proper feedback would also consider the golfer's attentions with the shot, as different shots might require adjustments. That was kind of funny. But then I said, do you notice anything unusual about the picture? And it says, upon further examination, yeah, the guy's actually like near a body of water, and normally golfers would take a drop from this and avoid hitting from here. Playing this shot with the feet in water is uncommon and challenging. Then it says, additionally, the golf shoes and club are lying on the grass next to the golfer. This suggests the golfer might have removed his shoes to step in the water and retrieve the ball. This is not a typical scene you'd expect on a golf course, which makes it both unusual and intriguing. Seems like the golfer might be taking a challenging shot or possibly just having a bit of fun. So that's funny. I mean, it's kind of cool that it can do these things like this, but that then makes you wonder, like, well, what are the applications in marketing? So I figured, all right, let's play around here. So I took a real simple screenshot of our podcast. This is obviously very basic, but I took a podcast chart from the artificial intelligence show. And I said, okay, what can you tell me about this podcast chart? Again, I was intentionally keeping the prompt very basic. And you can see it starts to go into, all right, well, we can see the vertical axis is labeled this, which typically represents counts in thousands. This can refer to number of metrics such as downloads or listens. The horizontal axis is time. Line graph shows generally increasing trend, but then it gets into towards the end of November, there's a significant drop at the end of the year. Might be a cause for concern and warrants investigation into possible causes such as changes in podcast content, increased competition, technical problems, or natural decline in listenership over time. So then I said, this begins the personalization part. I said, okay, the drop at the end occurs in December. What could cause that? Now, all of a sudden, the model's like, oh, okay, well, seasonal variation is certainly a thing here. We have people on holiday, content relevance based on the time of year. Maybe they didn't create as many podcast episodes because it was the end of the year. Maybe there's competition. Then it starts getting into more like technical issues and things like that. So it's Again, not trained, it's actually able to start doing some analysis. Now, you can give it way more advanced charts than I gave it. I'm just trying to represent for you what's going on here. But you can see the ability that's emerging out of these models. So let me give you another one. I took the URL for this course series and I dropped that in there. And in this case, I actually said, you are a marketing consultant with deep expertise on web page design, user experience, and conversion rate optimization. What could be done to increase the visitor conversion rate on this page? Consider all aspects of the page. So again, kind of step by step, you can start to see some of those things I was teaching you about how to do a prompt is in here. Now, the interesting thing is it now goes to the web. You can tell it actually looked at the page, but I look at this and say, okay, these are pretty basic, like visuals, social proof, optimization, loading speed. These are all kind of the obvious things that any marketer should probably be looking at. So then I started going a little bit further and I said, can you provide specific recommendations for each of these areas? And so then it actually starts to look at each of these areas and what could be done to improve them based in theory on what it's seeing on that page. And it starts to then go through that. And it's like, okay, for headlines, do this. For design, do that. For call to actions, think about this. Start mastering AI today. Like it's recommending actual ways to change it. Now, what I could have done is taken a best practices guide to website conversion for online courses and said, use this as your frame of reference for how to provide this guidance. Then it would compare the page versus the actual training document that I want to use. So again, this is just, I'm not saying this is perfect and this is going to like solve anything for us necessarily from a conversion standpoint, but it's a really quick thing. I used to run a marketing agency for 16 years. What I just showed you was probably like 3 to 5 hours of work from an associate consultant. If I said, hey, this client wants to improve their optimization of their page, can you write a brief on all the ways we could consider doing that? That associate consultant is going to go do some research. They're going to go find a bunch of links on Google. They're going to click all these links and write this brief. And 5 hours later, the client was charged $150 an hour for a brief that I just wrote in 3 minutes with ChatGPT. So then the interesting thing though is remember, it doesn't just have words, it has vision. So I thought, oh, I wonder what's going to happen if I give it a screenshot of the page and say, I want you to look specifically at this section. So I did. I took a screenshot of piloting AI, dropped it in there, said, would you recommend any specific changes to this section of the page? And it does it. It's like, okay, the headline is clear, but could be more engaging. Consider adding benefit-oriented tagline, such as navigate the future of marketing with AI. It's not bad. CTA, the pre-order piloting AI button could be more prominent. Secure your spot for 2024. I actually kind of like that. It creates almost this like sense of urgency and almost like it's a limited number of things. Like these are good. So again, having run an agency that did this for a living, the idea that we would have had these tools at our disposal would have changed the way I did services, the way I did pricing. So it's a very disruptive technology, I think, for professional service firms and for marketers. But it's also amazing when you think about the ways that we could use this technology.